let me talk about why are we talking about this, why this conversation is happening. There are few reasons why procurement has become such an important topic in last few years, and I would say thanks to COVID, right? While we should not thank it because it kind of, created a lot of disturbance in the system, but few good things came up. The attention that the supply chain procurement sourcing got after that definitely has been very, very different, because there were times when companies could not operate without having supply chain and procurement people, solving those problems on ground. So that's where, the things did change. If we talk about procurement, historically, and in few countries, in few companies, in few departments, it is still a transactional process wherein you are expected to kind of run a sourcing event when a requester comes to you. In private sector, we talk about whether it's a 5-step process, 6-step process, or 7-step process, but it is still a process. Things have shifted from there. No one is asking you how many steps of sourcing you are doing. They expect the result from you. They want a result which is error-free, which is risk-free, which is future-oriented. So that's the first thing which is expected by the organizations from, the procurement people. Second, cost. We all have the responsibility of saving money for all our organizations, right? Which is true. It still exists and will always exist. Will organizations be talking about this as priority number 0? Answer is no, because that is a given thing. You are supposed to save, so you are supposed to save. Let's talk about risk. Let's talk about continuity of business. That's where, the shift has happened in procurement. When we talk about technology, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about, automation, we talk about digitization, blockchain. All these things have gone through, the experiments and pilots already. So the expectation today is not that you say that, I want to try. The expectation is this is given, this is the foundation. Have you scaled it? Are you aware what are the results coming out of it? That's where, the expectation on the technology has changed. When we talk about, the third most important function here is, the talent. It is expected from the procurement people that you are not here to do the cost negotiation only. You have to understand what the business is, which business you are in, what is the upstream, what is the downstream, how do you partner with business and, deliver an error-free result. As I said earlier, look at the risk, find the solution and solve it, right? So this is how I would say the verdict has changed over the period of time. So to talk about all these things, we have an amazing panel here, which is the right mix of, public procurement, private procurement, practitioner who's into, upskilling, the people and then the policy maker. You won't see such a rich panel, I would say, wherein you will see a lot of, thoughts coming in. And the whole idea is public procurement, private procurement, everyone has to learn from each other. And then we need support from, the policy maker to advise how things need to happen. And, people like Jonathan, which I'll introduce to talk about what is happening across the globe and how to upskill. And I'm sure, one of my, quote is, I generally say, when a doctor has a MBBS, engineer has a BTech, what degree a procurement person has? No one knows, right? Lot of private organization procurement people land into procurement, not by choice, just that they don't get job, they land up there. And a lot of them end up building, the companies and careers after that. So with that, I'll, start doing the introductions. Maybe I'll start from my left. So we have Mr. Anil with us, who's a EVP with Reliance Industries Limited. I don't think so you need any introduction on Reliance Industries Limited. He's based out of Jamnagar. And thanks for being here. We'll listen to you when we kind of, start the topic. So we have Mr. Satya Meena from, Government e-Marketplace. He's the additional CEO, one of the largest platform globally for the public procurement, right? And I was talking to him a couple of days back. I started my career selling procurement solutions, and that time, the first clientele I had was government. DGS&D used to exist that point in time, and it was such a tough job for me to tell them what is e-procurement. They established GEM 10 years, less than 10 years ago. That is what I call transformation. I mean, I was always fan of the transformation in the private sector, but what GEM has done is amazing, and we'll talk about it. We have Jonathan with us on the right side. So Jonathan represents SIPS, who's the sponsor here. They are pioneers in the procurement education. Jonathan leads SIPS for Asia Pacific. And we'll listen to Jonathan on, what's happening on the education side, upskilling side, what are the global trends. We'll learn from him. And then we have Mr. Ashish with us from NASSCOM, again, a body which everyone is aware of. They are the ones who actually brought, the technology industry together. They are the policy makers who decide, how to adopt, what to adopt, and what are the guardrails around, the technology. So we'll listen to Mr. Ashish also. So with that introduction, I'll start first with Mr. Meena, who's on my left side. And when we talk about, the public procurement, right, it's not an easy thing to do. People talk about transparency, people talk about speed, people talk about opportunities. And you have been doing all this thing for MSME, large sector, startups. I want to understand from you how GEM has really transformed all these things which at one point in time were the biggest concerns.
Yeah, thank you, Brish, and good afternoon, everyone. You rightly mentioned just now that 10 years back, you were introduced to DGS&D system and you were struggling for the technology adaptation and all e-procurement system. Now, yes, before GEM, it used to be there. Lots of misinformation, asymmetry of information, manual interventions, procurement, public procurement used to happen in a very silos manner, no technology adaptation, and geographical constraints were there, so much buyer-seller collusion, the information used to be around, inclusivity and access was it was impossible. So with such kind of restrictions, a decision was taken by government, and in 2016, government e-market GEM was introduced, and with the introduction of technology and 3 pillars, efficiency, transparency, and inclusivity. This concept was envisioned, and within 7 to 8 years, now in last year, financial year, GEM have achieved a GMV of 5.43 trillion, that is approximately $64 billion USD, 7.2 million orders. So you can just see by introduction of technology and the kind of transformation efficiency has been achieved. And once we mentioned MSME, yes, government's complete attention is there, and as on date, we have approximately 2.2 million registered users. And out of those sellers, approximately 65 to 70% users are MSE. And we have 3.5 million registered buyers, are approximately 0.35 million registered buyers. So you can see the kind of scale has been achieved through this transformation. And then as on date, once we mentioned that yes, transparency has been achieved, now more user can access the market irrespective of their geography and class. So the mandate of Government of India was to achieve approximately 25% of orders to be given to MSME. But I just want to highlight that approximately 48% of the orders are being given to MSME. So we can see the kind of efforts has been done, it is visible, and transparency has been achieved through these efforts, and now from each corners people can access this portal through various domains, right?
Great. Thanks for that. $60 billion through platform. It's a massive number, right? I'll not answer. Maybe at some point in time you should ask how many people are managing that, because I learned that very recently. It was a surprise to me how that is being managed. Please do ask that question later, or maybe Mr. Meena will answer that. So you touched upon transparency, inclusivity, and efficiency, which definitely exist for the private sectors also, right? So these are the things that we need to drive, and the marketplaces are supposed to do that. Marketplaces broadly are again the technology products, and when we talk about technology, we're talking about artificial intelligence nowadays. The skills which are being expected are very different. My next question will be for you, Jonathan. So how do you think the role of procurement professionals is changing or will change with the technology changes that are happening? And has the focus really changed from transactional procurement to something else like risk-based sourcing? What is it that you see for India as well as the region, or maybe a global view?
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. Jonathan Chang here. I'm from Singapore. Thank you to Alma for inviting us here, and I'm very glad that we finally make it as a sponsor to this exciting event. I've been in India 7 times. This will be my 7th time in Delhi. I spoke in 6 other conferences. This is the first time we focus in procurement. I'm very excited. So when I saw when I saw the request, I say, definitely we'll be here. Okay, so this question is a very hard to my thinking, okay? So first of all, we procurement professional need to walk the talk. So the mindset today on a lot of procurement, not only in India, in other part of Asia, even in UK and the rest of the world, the first thing they just say, AI, all these are going to take over my job. So I, procurement guy, don't want to use AI, because if it's so efficient, if you look at all the solution provider that I have seen, agentic AI can do magic, okay? Can even do negotiation, which I personally think is not viable. Negotiation is not be able, but if you, procurement professional, doesn't change your mindset, you should look at AI is your tools to enable you to focus on what you're good at. Negotiation, stakeholder management, and the new things that my moderator here say, the risk-based sourcing. Nobody talk about category management anymore. We're talking about risk-based sourcing. So risk-based sourcing is another new thing. It's like an operating system for procurement. So risk-based sourcing is including, like if you look at our first session just now, the panel, the whole panel talk about sustainability, procurement, whatever. Now you, as a procurement organization, you are the one can drive this now, because. So answer to your question now is, we are ESG expert, we are risk management expert, we are doing our core function to clever use of technology to do stakeholder management. If you add all this together, it's a lot of expectation. The board level, if you look at all the board that I dealt with, I present to a lot of board across Asia. They all ask me a simple question. Sip, you are the global standard you set the global standard, you do all this upskilling, and so what is your view on what should be a procurement role? Then I say, well, depend on which part you're talking about. Wearing my procurement hat, wearing my ESG hat, wearing my that. Because one of the key factor of ESG is, I'm sure you get during your onboarding, you all have to say, oh, okay, you need to fill in a questionnaire to get through the onboarding. But did you get the primary supplier who to you to make sure their supply chain, the value chain, fill in the same questionnaire? Because at the end of the day, it's not your primary supplier problem. is you, because you are the paymaster. So with that in mind, the role is changing. It's no longer a simple procurement doing cost saving, doing say, hey, you haven't followed policy, we're going to fail the audit and all this. So that is how I'm going to answer your questions. Okay.
No, that was really helpful. Can I have a follow-up question on this? So, when we talk about technology, what do you think? Is it a enabler or is it the transformation itself?
Technology is an enabler. So the reason I say this is a lot of, especially younger generations, they use AI as a norm, okay? But they trust AI a lot. But for us, it's an enabler so that you can get all the normal procurement process work through. Then you focus on what you're supposed to do. Now you need to enforce the risk-based sourcing, you need to understand ESG, you need to understand how to manage the supplier, how to manage your stakeholder. So it's an enabler.
That's very helpful. You know, I wanted to quote an example. I've been using AI in procurement for approximately 3+ years now. When GPT came in 2022, there have been scenarios wherein I or my team, we don't know the particular commodity which we are procuring, right? That is where we use it to define the negotiation lever. So Jonathan mentioned that yes, AI cannot do the negotiation. It is an enabler. If you ask the right set of questions, be very clear that I do not know this commodity, help me in negotiation strategy, it works. And one of the example I definitely would like to quote is music. I was negotiating music for one of the advertisement. I am not a music expert. I don't know how to negotiate on music rights when it's sort of a sole source, because a particular music is owned by a particular label only. So there is no competition for that. So what will you discuss with them? That's where I used AI. Trust me, it really worked for me, and it came as a surprise. Oh, AI can really do wonder, just that you need to have the right set of mind and ask the right question. Great. So you touched upon risk-based sourcing, and if I now kind of, move towards, Mr. Anil and talk about Reliance, such a big conglomerate, multiple companies, right? Maturity level might be different for all. The complexities are very high, which means the risks are very high. And you do a lot of infra projects, right? How is it that you bring everything together and deliver it successfully as a procurement professional?
Thanks, Brish. On the outset, first let me congratulate IMA for organizing such a wonderful procurement summit 2026. I think this is a unique in itself for procurement professionals. I'm lucky to be sitting with a fellow panelists who are in the public policy making, capability building, and Brish himself being a procurement professional, and e-marketplace, the platform build, which is massive. I have been procurement professional myself, not involved in any platform development or the making the policy, rather complying the policies. I have enjoyed thoroughly the procurement challenges in the private sector for putting up world-class projects on fast-track basis. I have worked on the public sector side for 15 years before joining Reliance Industries in 1997. Around 2009-2010, when the company has grown big, the requirement was to review our processes, practices, to scale up further. We hired world-renowned procurement consultant A.T. Kearney to review our processes, to make best-in-class, efficient, And from there our journey for digitalization started. We build the processes which are cross-functional integration, efficient, all stakeholders brought on the platform so that decision making is faster and all the aspects and perspectives of the various teams are integrated through the portal. The next journey was how to make this platform digital completely. The challenges were the digital breaks, which still we are trying to make it 100%. We have not reached there on the digitalization. Now the question what Brish has asked, that how we balance the scales of procurement with the governance and the risk management. Yes, when we begin the journey, we thought digitalization is to do things conveniently or to do things faster. And we thought, we were afraid of the words of governance and the risk management. We don't know what is the risk, how to think of the risk. But when we went in deep inside, we realized that without digitalization, without platforms, you can't have the governance. Digitalization itself is a first step or foundation to the governance. Because when you make a process completely integrated as a platform, in each workflow or in each process, you are embedding the governance elements within the process itself. So governance is taken care by building the processes, by building the workflows. Nothing is left to interpretations because you decide in your platform who can enroll a vendor, what are the criteria required, who can approve a commitment, what is the distinctions, what are the deviations, who has the authority to approve the deviations, what are the variations, how the variations will be escalated. The variations may be due to the misunderstanding of the individual or the teams, or due to human error, or at times intent of human beings, which is rare. What is there cannot be eliminated. So we started believing as a team that digital is the solution for governance. And we made modules for each process steps of procurement to pay as an end-to-end platform, from vendor enrolling, whether it's vendor enrolling module, whether it is identifying the requirements, whether it is RFQ step, whether it is negotiation step, whether it is approval step. We made all these modules with all the risk and the governance attached to each process. And we made that as non-negotiable. If a deviation has to be taken, because we don't want a buyer to be just a compliant buyer. We want to keep his creativity, his value input intact at each step of the process. So there is a deviation module. He can put his deviation, and deviations are classified as per the complexity and the criticality, which gets escalated to a subject matter expert for validation. That is irrespective of hierarchy, that is based on subject matter expertise. Then, once we have these two parts, now coming to the digital and digital innovation. Digital is basically making the workflows, integrating it, and achieving the outcome which are efficient, which are effective, which are integrated. Now, coming to the digital innovation, probably my understanding is that replacing what a human was doing with a machine. The challenge here is who has the accountability of the decision making. Are we going to hold machine the accountability, or we'll have a human at the end of the machine to be held accountable? Our chairman, on behalf of the Reliance Industries, has committed and focused on integrating artificial intelligence not for the company, but for the country as a whole. Sorry. We want to build AI native deep tech company with advanced manufacturing capabilities. But at the same time, having the geo platform business, we intend to have the responsibility, as the chairman has said, to make affordable AI to all citizens of India. But at the same time, the risk involved with this has to be understood by everyone, because artificial intelligence will be very specific to specific people. We can't be talking in generality of the AI. What at this stage, an internal manifesto has been issued from the chairman's office on adapting AI. The fundamental of that is that will increase the velocity of our workflows and the processes. Will make our processes at the workflow stage AI enabled, which will help us to generate quality information, more insights with a speed. But the decision making still will be with a human intelligence, because at this point of time we think the accountability will remain with the human. But we have a plan to progressively increase dependency of the decision making, making it autonomous once we build more confidence in those processes which are made AI enabled, that they are giving the desired results. The first, we are going towards our tail end spend. Just for information, we are making around 4 lakh crores worth of procurement in a year. We invest about $10 billion in our capex every year. So our tail spend is quite high, but in comparison to our own spend, we call it a low value, high volume spend. So we are introducing artificial intelligence in that, autonomous, where the AI will decide the supplier based on the past performance. They will select the rates. The Clara bot will decide, negotiate online, because it will be a low spend, low risk, impact of the risk will be less, but learning will be massive to build in the main process. On the high spend side, what we have done on the artificial intelligence, rather than developing, we have gone to the market, what are the tools available on the artificial intelligence. There are certain tools, namely Procol and Sirion, which we are using. Procol takes us to the market and he gives us the intelligence at the decision making, 4 or 5 steps of the procurement. There the decision making still is there, but we are using those tools. We have recently started using AI tools. But I will say that we have to be very careful in implementing artificial intelligence in the procurement, because the stakes are very high. On the risk management, when you say how we manage, the risk without compromising with the efficiency and the scales is, we have developed the integrated Reliance risk and compliance portal, where all the process steps we have identified the statutory and regulatory and financial risk. At that stage, the accountability is established with the various stakeholders or the delivery boys. They need to do the compliance, not only do the compliance in time, they need to report the compliance in the system itself. The system picks up if there is a non-compliance timely, it gets escalated even up to the board, and that way we are managing our risk besides the other module.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think, I understood it. So you started with standardizing the approach, then did the workflow automation, defined governance and policies around it, and then defined the success metric, which is what has resulted into, the success, I would say. You touched upon policies, you touched upon technology. So based on that, I'll now move to Mr. Ashish. The question is around policies, the question is around, technology. How is NASSCOM helping in guiding or teaching or telling people adoption of technology? What are the guardrails around it? What should they be aware of? If you can help us with that.
All right, thank you, and thank you for inviting me here. This is my first time to this kind of a forum. So I'm hoping it is already so much interesting for me. And so just to give you a little bit of context in terms of before we get into the topic itself, if you just look at the technology services industry, this is roughly $280 odd billion industry in terms of annual revenue. And if you slice it, about 75% of this is exports. So really in terms of key markets being the US and the Europe. And then the rest, which is about 25%, about $55 billion is the domestic market. Now, what we are seeing is, interestingly, over the last few years, there is a trend. And because it's few years, I think the trend is probably here to stay. While the overall pie is growing, we are going to be close to $300 billion when we come out with our estimates for this year. But what is happening is that the domestic market is growing 40% faster than the export market. Also because there are headwinds and challenges and all of that in the global thing. So roughly, if we are growing around 5% or thereabout in the global context, we are growing about 7.5% in the domestic context. So if you look at it from a digitization point of view, this is a massive opportunity, and this is actually the requirement from a country perspective, which we should really be saying that how we can enable it and make it happen quicker. So that's the lens in terms of, from an NASSCOM point of view that, or from a tech industry point of view, that is also very exciting. Now, when you then think about it, and then you go back to this idea of procurement, I think when you think about goods, when you think about services, and then on top of it, you think about technology services, I think it assumes a certain level of complexity, which is unique. And then on top of that, you put a axis of emerging tech, where we are already talking about, generative AIs, PASE and agentic AIs. We are talking about autonomous agentic systems. So, and then we are also talking about the quantum future, which is going to be here soon. And when I started my journey in NASSCOM, that time cloud adoption was a challenge, and it still is. So I think this is a space where, if you look at it now from the public procurement side, I do see that we are making progress. So, for example, we are moving from this L1 approach to a quality come cost-based selection, which is very good. So you are focusing on technical quality at an initial stage and all of that. So from a legislative and from a administrative framework, I think it is an ongoing challenge. How do you fit technology into a system which was not natively designed from this concept? And then even in technology, we are moving, what used to be products are no longer products. So it is service. So how do you think about that? So let's dive into a few examples, right? That will make it a little more real. So I think one of the big challenges that when you think about procuring technologies, you worry about vendor lock-in from the guy who's procuring. Then you also worry about in terms of governance risk and all of that. Now from the supply side, the challenge is that given the technology is evolving at such a rapid pace, and if you just step back, so you all remember Passport Seva, right? So that's an example of TCS kind of a company doing something where it's a large project. Then you think of the taxation, our tax systems, you see the digitization journey. You look at last 7 years, which is GST. I think that is another example of good PPP in terms of our industry participating. So we have these big examples where things are, happening and they are really contributing to the digitization. But I think the challenge is that with something like AI and even the focus on privacy, how do you ensure that some of the supply chain is actually able to de-risk or address the risk which is there from the procuring side? So from a NASSCOM perspective, what we are doing is that one, we are working a lot on the awareness itself, and that was the context of the cloud example. Then another thing we were working was that how do we get technology startup into this space? So one of the things the government has done is that for the DPIT recognized startups, they have kind of done away with the criteria of turnover and past experience. So which is something which enables the startups to participate into this. Another interesting example, and I'm going to this couple of examples from the railways, and also the fact that the railway minister is also the IT minister, Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav, so that probably helps, is that and before I give that example, the meta point is that in the case of technology, most of the time, you don't know what you want to buy. So at best, I think the way to think about it is you have a problem statement. And that is the best approach to think about this, and railways recognized it and they did this. So for example, they had a problem statement that railway tracks develop cracks and fractures. So that's a problem statement. They did not say, I want this solution. And then they approached, they developed a co-development model or an innovation model where they put out the problem statement. They got the people who are interested or qualified to solve that problem to do a kind of a challenge and come up with a solution. And once the solution was recognized, then they kind of did an RFP or procurement and so on and so forth. So I think that kind of a approach really is something that can help in many, many cases. Similarly, again, even in Vande Bharat, I think what they did was they piloted first and got a very strong proof of concept, which was validated. And then they went into the procurement stage. So I think that is another example. From a, let's take example of, let's say, privacy. So now in a global context, you are supposed to be responsible for privacy safeguards. Okay, so think of any large complex company like a consumer goods company. So you are managing a lot of data, you are doing a lot of advertising marketing, you have a vendor chain, a supply chain. How do you ensure that across all these chains which are global, that while you are doing your bit, how is everybody else in the chain who is not your entity itself also ensuring that the privacy is safeguarded? It's very difficult, it's very challenging. So we are working towards how do we think about certifications, which are interoperable, globally recognized certifications, to be able to create that kind of a process where if the vendor is certified, he or she can get, probably a kind of a head start in terms of participating in procurement. So a lot of global companies are looking at that, and one such example is global CBPR. It's a framework which works on interoperability of privacy rights and so on and so forth. And the last example which I want to give is on the AI front. I think a lot of work has happened in the industry on the technology side. On the adoption side, I think we are still lacking. So, for example, one of the ways we are thinking is that it's a live project where we are trying to see. So, government has a national single window system. This is not a very old system, it's fairly modern, been about 5 years, but it's very ambitious system in the sense no other country has contemplated something similar to this. And it involves state, it involves center in terms of, you know, the entire process of enabling ease of doing business from an industry perspective. Now, one of the opportunities to say that how can we use AI to make the entire system much more robust in terms of its UI, in terms of its predictiveness, in terms of making sure that workflows where they break between center and state, instead of thinking in terms of forms and fields, you think of in terms of data, and then forms and fields become irrelevant. So how do you solve for this? What is the solution that you want? I think even what is the problem statement? Even that is very difficult to articulate. So, so the thing is that then you engage and you bring the industry in to develop the problem statement. And I'll just end by saying that one of the other thing that we have done over the last couple of years to look at AI adoption in public sector banks. So, because again, while we are talking about the possible productivity boost, it will only happen when the adoption happens. And from the procurement side, and banking is highly regulated, so it is very fair for them to be very, very careful in terms of what they want to do. But that's the challenge. So while you would have these potential risks, potential concerns, maybe lack of awareness, but the opportunity is huge in terms of what we can do. And for us, the challenge is not about saying that we will lose jobs because of emerging technologies, or we have people, so why do we need technology? No. For us, as a technology industry, the demand side is potentially unlimited because we build and solve for India and the world together. So I think the more we can adopt technology and we can bring our procurement systems in line with this, it is actually a net super useful thing. And therefore, I feel the hard work that you guys are doing, and for having a summit like this, I think it is tremendous, and I think there is a lot of work which technology industry needs to be able to deliver the technology where it really matters. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think you provided a lot of great examples, and you know, this defining the problem, this is something which I believe is, you know, something which I have been following for years, wherein, you know, don't define the solution straight away and ask someone to deliver that. Define the problem, ask for them what is it that you are looking at the end, and let the solution be defined by, you know, the other party. So thanks for that. I did not see anyone jumping, which means no one is feeling sleepy, which means the topic is really interesting. You know, the content that is coming out is really, really good, and thanks for that. So with that, I'll move to Mr. Meena to again ask. We just touched upon, you know, the technology and how, you know, the government is helping on this. When it comes to artificial intelligence, blockchain, analytics, what are the next tools and technologies that GEM is adopting?
Yes, thank you so much for highlighting, Mr. Ashish, right? Yes. Yes, GEM is really adopting technology. GEM itself is a part of technology, yes. And it is not, basically it's a process. In the morning inaugural session where Secretary Sir and our Honorable CEO has mentioned that on public procurement, once we mentioned, it comes with the compliances, it comes with the process and regulation. So GEM is completely digital, but it is a rule-based engine where we are adopting, processing and ensuring all the process which has been which needs to be guarded for compliances of transparent public procurement system. And by ensuring this thing, our all information are on portal, and we are adopting various intelligent tools, various dashboards with respect to our various stakeholders. Now each and every stakeholder, be it buyer, seller, they can see the kind of journey they are having, the kind of the business they are doing it, and various analytical tools, searching tools. We have a AI chatbot system, smart search analytic tools are also available, and various automated bid evaluation system and ranking tools are also available. And very soon, I am happy to announce that very soon we are going to announce a new GEM avatar, where more advanced features will be there. Like he has mentioned, industries adopting cloud and all new technology. We have already GEM have already adopted cloud-based system, where we are 100% on cloud-based system, and on analytics tools we are doing market sanity and risk analysis are being also done, price reasonabilities, price market search. These all possible tools are being have already been adopted, and yes, in the coming new avatar, more advanced tool will be there, and we always encourage with such kind of platform by discussing and getting the feedback from various stakeholders and industry leaders and tech leaders, then what can be more added to this public procurement system. So we should be industry ready and industry competitiveness should be there. And I would also like to take this I would like to take opportunity because I'm seeing so many new young entrepreneuring faces. So if they are working for any kind of AI tool or blockchain tool which can be adopted on marketplace, their suggestions are always welcome, so that we can also incorporate or such kind of services which are useful for the various government buying system. We can upload them on as a seller, and for startup we have a different exclusive segment. So DPIT registered startup can always register on GEM Startup Runway program. We run on GEM Startup Runway program, where all 13 exclusive categories which are approved by DPIT, they can always they can directly come and onboard on GEM Startup Runway. And today we have approximately more than 36,000 startups are already registered, and approximately 53 lakhs orders have been issued with the approximately value of 6 billion rupees GMV has already been achieved by those startups. So yes, definitely we are adopting technology, AI tools, and we are also encouraging all young entrepreneurs to please come give their service. As he has rightly mentioned, now product is no more a product, it is a service. So through their products, they can do the service of various government organizations.
Thank you, and thanks for showing this openness and transparency, inviting people to come and give ideas, and that is exactly what we did a couple of times in last 3-4 days. I saw him very welcoming. There's nothing like government or private, right? If you have an idea, if you think how GEM can improve, come and tell. So thanks for that openness. When we talk about technology and all, one thing that we generally do not talk is the talent, which I would say is one of the most key thing. And when we talk about talent, we have to talk about upskilling. And for upskilling, we should know what are the competencies that need to be there. And for that, I'll ask Jonathan, you to kind of help us and the people here understand what are the newer competencies that you think the procurement professional should have, and how do they adopt them?
Okay, so back to my key I like this question very much. The first thing is, we all know how to do trend. As a procurement practitioner, category management, you know what is the past trend and you come up. But how do you predict? The board level, the stakeholder now is to say, you procurement need to be a crystal ball. How can you predict the next crisis like COVID and our good friends in US, without naming names, play around with the tariff? How do you predict the trend? That is something that please invest in your people. Know how to use maximum is the AI side. AI is all down to writing prompt. There's a prompt engineering approach that you should look at. The best you write the prompt, the more detail you get. So if you Google or if you use ChatGPT to say what is prompt engineering, they will tell you what. And a lot of procurement organizations I train and I work with, they don't look at that. They don't look at prompt engineering. The best prompt I have seen is one A4 page. Nobody will ever seen that type of prompt. So that is part one. Part two is a soft skill that we all lack of. Some of us fell into procurement, just like myself. I fell into procurement from banks. I was in banking operation. I was in the front office. I was the guy crawl under the table to connect cable. Nobody teach me storytelling. Storytelling is one of the skills that we procurement need to invest on. So when you go to see your CEO, it's a different story. When you go to see your stakeholder, or when you talk to your engineering in manufacturing or semiconductor talk to engineering, it's a different. So storytelling is a skill that we never invest on. Okay, so that's number two. The third one is you need to learn emotion intelligence. You need to always put yourself on the supplier side, on your stakeholder side. Just how my fellow panelists here talk about borderness. You no longer do a us and them. You need to put yourself in their shoe. When you say, hey, you're dealing with a SME. Early on in the first session, one of the dignitaries say 45% of the public procurement is SME. Hey, you need to understand. They barely making their living. And now you go in to say, well, you need to do this, you need to do this. So be sensitive. This is an emotion intelligence that you need to look at. The final one is the key one. You need to invest in your people. Understand. Everybody say they understand sustainable procurement. Everybody understand. They know what is ESG, what is that. But do you actually train your people on ESG? Understanding ESG is a different art. So if you put all this together, you manage, understand data, you understand ethic, you understand ESG, you understand risk, we procurement are unstoppable because you're now driving the agenda of your organization. That is what you need to get your team upskill to.
Totally agree. And again, if you heard, he did not talk about procurement as a skill. He's talking about soft skills, storytelling. These are really important. We procurement people always say that we don't get, seat at the table. Reason being, we are not good storytellers, right? Whoever is a good storyteller ends up reaching there. Then emotional intelligence, very much needed because you work with suppliers. The moment you cross that threshold and become emotional towards supplier, things are gone, right? So you are working for a company, make sure that emotional intelligence is at the right level, you take the right decision as a professional so that you have a story to tell. And I believe you want to say something, Jonathan?
Yeah, sorry, I missed out one important thing. Please leverage on your PM directive. I was fortunate enough to attend a upskill train mission to meet the ministry in Tanamado, probably pronounce it wrongly, Odisha and Delhi. I met the minister and they are mandated to upskill your fellow citizen to have a skill. So there is a lot of commitment from your government. You have 1.48 billion as I last count, okay? It's a lot of people in there. You have a lot of skillful. You are very strong in the world about your technology mindset. Most people, when they first think about who got the technology experts, is India. So leverage on that and move forward. So I just want to make sure I say that.
No, thanks for that. Thanks for bringing that up. My next question is to Mr. Anil. So you have worked for public procurement as well as, now with one of the largest private player. What are the top 3 things that you think public procurement should learn from private? Top 3 things.
I think very difficult question. Huh? Having worked on both the sides, you see, as far as the potential is concerned, public sector has a big potential. Potential of talent, potential of capacity, potential of the infrastructure and the resources at the disposal of public sector. So, it's difficult to suggest what public sectors shall be doing, but I can say what we are doing, we feel is working for us. That procurement to achieve a win-win solution is working for us. Is not the cheapest, the best, the compliant, the best. A long-term business association formation with the suppliers and the vendors create value for both of us. We believe in that. Second, the background I come from is from the energy sector of Reliance, from the refinery, petrochemical and the solar green energy, where we have to execute fast, mega scale project, world scale project at a fast track basis, like the world's largest refinery, whether it is the entertainment center at Bandra Kurla complex, or the solar energy chain now, 20 gigawatt manufacturing plus solar generation plus 60 gigawatt battery storage. Our challenge at this point of time is to execute these big projects on a very fast track basis, because the pressure is enormous on the owners. The technology is changing so fast. If you take more time in project execution or delay the project, whether the project will still remain viable or the technology will change and the competitiveness will go. The pressure is enormous on the time. So what we have factored that while selecting the vendors or the contractors while executing these projects, is not competitive bidding which is helping us. The procurement fellows, like the contracting fellows, sit along with the project execution team and the business team to formulate the procurement strategy or contracting strategy, which will deliver us the project in time. That is the most important outcome rather than the price, and we go with that. So what I'm trying to say is that these processes are very important, technology is very important. At the same time, how to make it, the outcomes, assurance mechanism to be built in. We are accountable at every stage of the procurement to deliver those outcomes. Plus performance linked contracts, how those can be integrated. Most of our contracts has what is important to us while spending the money or committing the money, value for money spent in terms of KPIs, so that we have accountable contracts at our disposal. Then, because the stakes are very high, how we assure that the amount we are committing or we are negotiating is the right price. So we have cost models, which we are making it digital now, those cost models. We have these to some significant stage. So we are making it dynamic cost models where the variable cost gets factored in at the time of committing, that you know that. So another one step we have taken is masking the bidding process. Like the government has already done in the income tax and the customs and all that, that you don't know who is the inspector who is assessing your documents. So we are ready almost to go with the masking of the bidding process. The RFP goes to the selected qualified vendors. The vendor don't know who is the person who is the buyer behind sending it. So probably these are things we are doing in that direction. So taking clue from JC, the storytelling, when he was saying the storytelling is important for the procurement fellow, I feel, having done 2.5 decades on the procurement, the negotiation remains the most important thing. Not to beat the vendor, to arrive at a win-win situation. A story is coming to my mind of a procurement of negotiation is only that a vendor was negotiating with one of our team lead a deal, and the vendor was knowing it, me also as well, and he was not giving the best prices to the lead at that point of time, and he had a hope that he will approach me for some better deal. So he approached me, I welcomed him, I called my lead also, I asked him what is the issue. He told, so my price is this, he is not offering me this price. I told him, you see, I am sitting in Gujarat and he is sitting in North India, in Delhi. In Delhi they fry the puri in oil. In Gujarat we fry the puri in water. You make a choice which puri you want. He told, better I will negotiate with him. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Right. Oh, that was an interesting example. Thanks for sharing that, right? So we're getting a lot of questions, which is really good. Before we get into question, my last question is to you, Mr. Ashish. It's around, again, we're talking about AI technology, but I would like to understand what is it that the policy enablers like you are doing to accelerate, the adoption of AI specifically?
I think AI adoption has to be use case driven, and that requires understanding of the opportunities and what it can do. So as a global industry, I think the basic philosophy we follow is the show and tell. So wherever there are these great examples, we present those examples as success, and then people learn and they take forward those ideas. And one of the things that we do, and this we do in partnership with the industry and the government, is we have multiple center of excellences where some of these use cases, whether it is in health tech, ed tech, or agri-tech for that matter, all of these are developed. And then the point is, how do we scale them up? And we also work, if you think about it, in the regulated sector. So for example, in the securities market, a lot of the adoption of technology, we hope will flow through the sandboxing route, where you are able to look at the innovation, you are able to look at solutions which can really scale up, and then they will mainstream. And similarly, for example, if you look at the banking side, there are so many risks in terms of outsourcing, and there are guidelines and frameworks. So what we do is to try and see that how those risks can be minimized. So for example, a lot of the requirements earlier used to be in terms of data residency or data localization. But now I think as industry we have moved where sovereign tech or sovereign data capability is a solution. So if somebody wants sovereign control, then that itself is an opportunity rather than a limitation. And obviously you have to see the cost benefit in terms of for what use case you do want it. One of the things which is, so some of these things are optional, right? You want to do more productive work, you want to have a competitive advantage, you adopt technologies and you do that. But something is also baseline. And this cuts across whether it is the entire government sector in terms of digitization or even the industry, which is how we think about cybersecurity. So I think today if you look at it, the spend which happens on cybersecurity does not match the risk or the kind of requirement which is needed. So one of the things that we are doing is to how do we make sure that the cybersecurity related procurement actually grow in terms of both on the public side, even on the industry side. So when you think about our critical infrastructure, and a lot of the way we understand critical is no longer the same. So there are a lot of stuff which are mainstream, where our day-to-day lives are dependent and connected. So those systems by default become critical. And in all of those systems, I think it is important to make sure that we are able to ensure that over the next few years, we are pretty good, decent in terms of cybersecurity. But for example, I'll just give two examples. So we know that Operation Sindoor happened, right? At that time, India faced so many cyber attacks, and then and it is the strength of the cybersecurity apparatus where a lot of them were, most of them were addressed. Another trend is that anytime there is a big event that happens in India, so whether it's a G20, whether it is a AI summit, all of these are times where there are global attacks on Indian systems to try and create a disability, some kind of a disruption. So I think I just want to end by saying that some of these things are pure hygiene, and even those things which are nice to have. The challenge is this: do you want to make sure that you have the benefit of frontier technologies, or are you going to settle for something which you feel is safe, easy, and what your procurement system can manage? So I think that is the thing to say, that how can we move forward where we do not exclude frontier technologies just because our systems are not ready to accept them. And I think that is where I think a lot of the work ahead is for us as an opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, Brish, I'll compliment and add on to what Ashish said. Yeah, it's not a choice adapting technology.
Yeah, right.
For any corporate or for any professional or any individual per se, is a necessity to adopt the technology to remain relevant in the industry or life. So in the individual capacity or as a professional or in a personal life, I think most of us are using the artificial intelligence, the various LLM models. And as JC said, some time back we were believing the quality of prompt decides the quality of the output. Now the prompt itself is being written by the the model. So you have improvised or outsourced writing the prompt itself. Now we are seeing the various models are giving the various results in terms of how those agents are trained with what type of data on that. We have to be very, very careful that how we are training the agents, and our corporate data, quality of the data need to be purged before we training the agents on that to get the quality output. And we are observing initially that like human beings, it's very easy for us to audit the work done by others, and it's very difficult to create and compare. So we are also exploring the opportunities before going full scale on the autonomous processes, that we build two types of agent, one which creates and compares for us, then we get it verified from the other agent. So yes, we all have to work on work with the speed to catch up and stay relevant, and the scales, opportunity which are there at scale, and the businesses which are unfolding as opportunities are humongous. We all need to move fast on that. There is no doubt about it. I fully agree with you.
Sure. Thanks for that. And we have a lot of questions, so I don't know how many of the questions could be answered in next 15 minutes. And I know some of them are very directed to certain people, so I'll go by combining certain questions, and if we can be quick in terms of every question at max 2 minutes, that's what I would say. So the first question is, I'm clubbing two questions for, Mr. Ashish and, Jonathan. So the questions are, with the AI and database advanced analytics entering into the sourcing and negotiation, how do you see the role of procurement professional changing in 3 to 5 years? And along with, another question is more around, again, the competencies which ideally one should learn in next 3 to 5 years. I know, Jonathan, you've already answered, but in case you can further add on that. But first, I'll go to Mr. Ashish. What's the role of procurement professional in next 3 to 5 years? You see it from the government side, considering AI, data analytics getting into our domain.
Frankly, I don't really have an answer to this. I think one important thing that I would recommend is that one needs to be fully aware of the technological context. So for example, a lot of our industry in terms of when we think about procurement, and it's especially in the domestic context, there is a lot of hesitancy to even engage. Because one, obviously they are looking at the export market and they have a certain kind of experience in terms of their markets, in terms of both the government and the private market in the developed countries. And if you compare ROI to ROI, I think there is a hesitation. So I think we need to create awareness of the developments that have happened in our procurement systems itself and bring that closer. And the second thing which I'll say is that there has to be a very good feedback loop. So I think the people who are the procurement professionals on the ground, they really know what is happening and where things are broken and where there is scope for improvement. How do you translate that knowledge back to the system so that the system can improve faster? Because we can't afford to have the kind of cycles we probably had in the past in terms of improving of the systems. So instead of giving you advice, I'm looking at help from your community so that we can do our job better in some sense, right? Thank you.
No, that's helpful. So, Jonathan, again, the question is around competency. But along with that, the ask from, one of the audience is that how can public-private SIPs policy can collaborate in developing those competencies also?
Wow, interesting questions. Okay, so let me answer. I agree with my fellow Anil just now. I missed out negotiations. I acknowledge that. But how do we do this? Okay, so the answer is very simple. We need to make all these parties, public, private, and you say private, public, and you need to make all these as a standard. So we adhere to this approach. We agree this is what we endorse this. There are 120 companies today around the world. They are our SIP customer. They will not employ anybody who don't understand the global standard of procurement. So they got our certification. So that is one of the endorsements. So at the moment, I don't think India, we have that endorsement. So if we can work together and then agree on this is the competency. I'm not here to say you need to get the SIP certification. This is the competency that we need to focus on and endorse it so that everybody understood what are they get themselves into. That's how I answer these questions.